Okay, the next thing that we're doing with our creating tunes is to actually have a look at the chords themselves. At the moment, we have been moving through the chords by putting our thumb on whatever the root note is. So the root note for a C chord is C, the root note for an F chord is F, and so on. The A minor chord is A, and the thumb goes on the G for the G chord. And we're just playing a note, skipping it, and then skipping another one. So we're going to actually write down the notes in each chord. So a C chord has a C, an E, and a G in it. An F chord has F, A, and C. I'm going to write it down here. The A minor chord has A, C, and E. And the G chord has G, B, and D. Oops, sorry. G, B, and D. Now we're going to have a look here. I've written it like this so you can see where there's actual match-up. So you can see that there's a common note here in the C chord and the F chord, and that note is the C. Now the other notes that we need for that F chord are F and A. Now they don't have to stay in that order. I can swap them around. So if I'm starting on my C chord like this, instead of moving all the way up here to the F chord, I can actually change the order of the F chord around so that I've still got an F, an A, and a C. I've just got it in this inverted chord position instead. So up here on my little board, I'm going to write that instead of playing the F down here, I'm going to play it up here. And I'm going to do my A up there. It's just a little easier for my fingers to get to. Now with the F chord and the A chord, you can see that we've got, or the A minor chord I should say, we've got A as a common note, and we've got C as a common note. And F and E are very, very close together. So obviously because these two notes are the same, I want to keep them in the same place. That's much easier. So I'm going to switch them over. And play it in that inverted position. So on the piano, we've moved from a C chord to this version of an F chord. Now the only note that needs to change for my A chord is moving my F finger down to an E. And how much simpler does that look? So I've got C, F, A minor. Instead of having to move my whole hand, I can simply keep my fingers in relatively the same position. Now the next one, the G chord, doesn't have anything much in common at all. There is no A, there is no E, and there's no C in a G chord. So what I can do is just look at, okay, which notes are going to be closest? So the closest to the A is going to be a G, so I'm going to put the G there. E and D are very, very close together, and so are C and B. So I'm going to leave it in that particular inversion. So on the piano, it would look like this. We've got normal root position for the C chord, F chord, the top two fingers move up, A minor, the middle finger moves down one, and then I'm going to keep that same basic hand shape and move it all down one note. So every note was moving down one. So how much easier does that look? Rather than, which is much easier to make a mistake when you have to move your hands around a lot. So if I was doing these particular chords here, these new versions of the chords that I've created, as say someone like you, or Bruno Mars, you can hear that there's a difference between having to move the fingers. It still sounds the same in many ways because you're using the same notes, but you don't have to move your fingers as far. And it can actually sound more pleasing to the ear sometimes to have it in a more similar position, particularly when you're beginning a tune or a song. It's a little easier on the ears. So what you can do with your own chord progression is do the same thing I did. So for each chord, write down which notes are in the chord and stack them on top of each other. Then you can circle or draw a line between each of the notes that are the same and see if you can figure out an order that works really well so you don't have to move your fingers around quite so much. So that's your next task. Hopefully we've already done it in class. If we haven't, hopefully these instructions are a little easier to follow than not having any guidance at all. It can be quite tricky though when you're not quite sure what to do. So if you're not sure of it, just wait until our next lesson and I can explain it to you. Otherwise, if you'd like to have a go, just try it. Just try writing down, here are my notes of the chords, and see. I did most of my stuff up here and then played the piano, whereas you could actually be quite interactive and figure out, okay, which notes are the same? How will my fingers look? What's easiest for my fingers? So you can really experiment and see which versions are going to be easiest for you.